Welcome back to That Atleti Podcast. I'm Jeremy Beren. That's Ricky Menéndez. We are back in action here, getting you set for the Club World Cup. Atletico are debuting against Paris Saint-Germain this weekend at the Rose Bowl to kick off this exciting 32-team tournament. But before we get into all that good stuff, Ricky, I want to start tonight by talking about values and talking about how important it is for a club and its fans, its supporters to have values, respect, loyalty, and
drawing red lines.
Drawing red lines
that shall not be crossed.
And one such red line that I think we came dangerously close to crossing was the potential signing of Theo Hernández from AC Milan. We talked about Theo on last week's show with Ali Correz, and we delved into that situation a little bit, why Theo was so controversial, why this transfer would have been a problem. As of Thursday night, it appears this deal is dead in the water, man. Reports in Italy and Spain. What can you tell us? What have you heard about the Theo deal?
I know that Italian sources have been pushing for the deal. That part of the news segment came directly from one side of the sources, the agent and the player himself, that did not want to pursue a move to Saudi Arabia. And Atlético Madrid seemed like a good way of bailing from that possibility. I can tell you that as of right now, as of today, and I don't think that will move very much, the operation is dead in the water 100%. The club has been scrambling all evening long, calling one by one all of their most credited news pundits, the beat reporters, telling them that Atlético de Madrid had no interest in pursuing signing Theo Hernández. And that means the way we couldn't read this, and several outlets have already echoed this news. I know Mundo Deportivo has gone with it, Marca has gone with it, Rubén Uría has gone with it. So that means they're working the telephone lines, calling all of the media, making it seem like it was just an agent thing. My feeling is that Atlético Madrid considered this very seriously, and they decided to drop the operation, seeing the backlash that was resulting in all of the noise coming from fans and all of the social media resurfacing of Theo Hernández mocking Atlético Madrid, stepping on the crest, making fun of the fans during a Cibeles celebration, and all of the rest of the antics that are just what made Theo feel like the absolute wrong fit for Atlético Madrid. So that's news, and I think there's very little opinion there. It's like Atlético Madrid normally does not scramble to dispel rumors. They do it when they want to really send a message home, and they're pounding on that message, which seems to have been at least partially generated by the club itself. That interest in Theo Hernández, which was at a certain point a real thing, and that has finally lost all air as a balloon and has completely deflated.
This would have been an impermissible transfer, an inadmissible transfer. A player who has openly mocked Atlético de Madrid, a club for whom he represented in the youth ranks.
Wouldn't be openly, the first time.
No, it wouldn't. Openly mocked, openly disrespected the club, as we talked about last week. Theo and Lucas Hernandez, both well-known Real Madrid fans, dressing in Atletico colors.
The first time either. Those kind of operations always have that Real Madrid history behind. So for all those fans that really don't understand where the animosity comes from, it's a hating neighbors thing. I've seen in the news all the relevance that the Pope wearing a certain baseball cap.
Yeah, the White Sox cap.
For Chicago fans. So I think the Chicago listeners or viewers can relate to how inadmissible some things are, crossing lines and crossing sides for fans from one team to another.
It seems pretty clear that Theo and his agent were going to use Atletico as a springboard. They were going to use Atletico once again, and that is something as a club you cannot accept. Yeah, I don't care how good the player is. I don't care that he's one of the top left backs on the market right now. I really don't care. I want someone who is going to represent and respect the values of this club and the values of this shirt. And Theo Hernández was not going to do that. You know, Marcos Llorente has a Real Madrid past. Juanfran has had a Real Madrid past. Felipe Luis, a Real Madrid past. There are a bunch of players who have played for Atletico under Simeone and not under Simeone who once played for Real Madrid's first team or represented them at the lower levels. I guess we've talked about it a little bit already, but how is Theo's case beyond the categorical disrespect for Atletico? How is his case so much different than those other cases?
Well, first of all, because Juanfran was very, very controversial at first. The move to sign Juanfran, because he was regarded as being a diehard Real Madrid fan, and he's confessed to that himself. But he says that once you wear the jersey, once you play for the team, he just fell in love with it. He always admits that he converted to Atlético Madrid, that he's very happy to have done so. I think that in the case of Felipe Luis, he was a player that suffered a terrible injury, and because of that injury, Atletico could pursue a transfer that was way out of its spending window, just buying damaged goods and taking a bet on an injured player to see if he can make a comeback. And his comeback was absolutely marvelous. But all of those players have the past. In the case of Llorente, it's a huge lineage of family members connected to Real Madrid, but also connected to Atlético Madrid. Their grandfather, Gento, one of the most historical players of Real Madrid, he played along with Di Stefano, but he was an Atlético player too. So he played for Atlético and he played for Real Madrid, something that was quite common at the time. So in the case of the Llorente family, it's just that they have a Real Madrid tradition. They have a lot of ties to Atlético Madrid. To Real Madrid. Up to 5 members of the family have played for either basketball or football professionally for Real Madrid. Marcos was just pursued a different avenue, and I don't think he was an Atlético fan at all. He's just a very good professional. And when professionalism takes the center stage, and at the end of the day, these players are professionals, you have to just respect that. I don't think that Llorente is the biggest Atletico fan. Maybe he's not even an Atletico fan. He's not an Atletico supporter. But since he's so professional, he's never had a bad word for either the team that he's playing for or any of the previous teams. I think fans at the end of the day respect that you just show up, do your job, and do it to the best of your ability.
With no fanfare, with no histrionics, no dramatics.
Exactly.
That is Marcos to a T. Moving on from Theo, I want to mention we haven't talked about Atlético Femenino much on this pod at all, and that's going to change.
I've been following them for forever. I've been following them for the last 15 years, maybe, going to matches where there were maybe 20 people. It used to be like so small, showing up to those games, that the expectation after the match was for people to just go onto the pitch and go talk to the players. That's what we used to do. But just regular fans, not the press, because there was no press following the Femenino team, the ladies team, and it's just become more of an integrated part. At the beginning, they just had a naming deal. Lola Romero, the president of the Femenino part of the team, signed an agreement with Enrique Cerezo and Miguel Ángel Gil to start a female division. I have to look up the year. I don't remember exactly what year that was. But after a few years, because of the legislation change regarding female teams as parts of professional teams, Atlético integrated the Femenino. It used to have a different name. It was called Atlético Féminas into the club, and it turned into Atlético Madrid Femenino. Under that name, Atlético de Madrid has won 3 leagues and 1 Super Cup with Villacampa as a head coach. Besides that, it's won another Supercopa, which was 2 years ago, and 1 Copa de la Reina last year against Real Madrid. This year, it reached the final, but unfortunately, women's football, there are teams that are absolutely top and completely professional, and the rest just seem to be 2 or 3 steps below. And in the La Liga, it's basically Barcelona and all the rest.
Yeah.
And one day we can talk about the salary structure, how many of the key players that Atlético Madrid had just moved to Barcelona just to get a decent salary. That was a basic outcome, and how after a few years they've become part of this legendary Barcelona that is winning cups and winning Champions League and Ballon d'Ors and collecting all the trophies in the world. But from the perspective of being competitive, it's not a competitive league. It feels very much like Barcelona fighting against their own will to continue winning, and the rest are just picking up the scraps, trying to end up in Champions League positions. Atlético de Madrid has managed to do so 2 of the last 5 years, if I'm not mistaken. These 2 last seasons, the first one, they were eliminated in the qualifying round, so they actually did not get to play Champions League football. And this, at the end of this summer, they're going to have the opportunity to reach past that qualifying round, which is an extra hurdle that the third team that comes in has to overcome, and hopefully get to that part where you can play against other sides in the league stage and in the knockout stage. But as of what's happened in recent times, Atlético Madrid played the final of the Copa de la Reina. That was Saturday, if I'm not mistaken, and they lost against Barcelona 2-0. I think it's probably the game between Barcelona and Atlético de Madrid that I've seen in the recent 3 years that felt the closest. Atlético Madrid won the Copa de la Reina last year because Barcelona was disqualified for playing a player that didn't have a professional license or something like that. Some kind of trickery
wild.
that got
I don't remember that.
Sporting de Huelva through, and that's why 2 teams played the final and one wasn't Barcelona. That was the only reason. Barcelona is a very strong side. It was very, very dominant, but Atlético Madrid had their opportunities. Even though the game fell on Barcelona's side, Claudia Pina scored 2 goals around the first half hour of the first half, and also around 25 minutes into the second half. Scored the second goal. Atlético Madrid had several very good opportunities to tie the game when it was still 1-0, and just Barcelona walked away with another trophy for the trophy case. Barcelona has shown some slight signs of being defeatable after losing the Champions League final this season, which is a novelty for European football, where Barcelona is a win-all kind of squad.
Yeah, to just kind of contextualize this Barcelona dominance, Ricky, their women's team has won the past 6 league titles. In 3 of those seasons, they have finished unbeaten. I think they've reached the past 5 women's Champions League finals, have they not? They reached the past 5, and they've won 3 of them. This season, they scored 128 goals in the league and conceded 16. The season before that, they scored 137 goals and conceded 10. While winning 29 of 30 games and drawing the other. This season, they lost twice in the league, which is the first time they've done that since 2018-19.
They've held the Ballon d'Or for the last 3 seasons as well.
Yeah, they're a death machine.
it's
they're incredible.
It's something else. It's like it stops being fun when one team is so dominant. There was a stat the other day. It was like shots on target for Barcelona during the Copa de la Reina final, 22 on Barcelona's side, 2 on Atlético Madrid's side. If you go to the Champions League final,
shots.
Yeah.
Wow.
If you go to the Champions League final, Arsenal won with 8 shots on target versus 20 from Barcelona. So they're just not very good at closing the deal because they do shoot on target. They have 70% possession of the ball. So it's like complete dominance, and sometimes they just don't manage to score the goals and they get a scare. But that's a weakness that Barcelona presents. They're not effective enough. If they had that effectiveness a little bit higher, It would just be some crazy dominance. I don't know if you have the scores for Barcelona this past season, but I'm sure that you'll find a couple of 8-0, 9-0, 7-0, 6-0, a few of them in their results throughout the season. So yeah, it doesn't feel like it's a real competition there.
Yeah, you've got a 10-1 here, an 8-1, a 7-1, a couple of 6-0s, an 8-1, a 6-0, a 9-0 against Betis's.
Stops being fun. I mean, when I don't know, it just has to feel so humiliating for professional players to get that kind of a defeat repeatedly at home and away.
It's just demoralizing. It's so demoralizing.
It is.
And for reference, Atletico finished third this year, which is pretty good.
Very good.
The women's team had a downturn in fortunes in recent years.
Because of all the money investment that Real Madrid has put into their team. I don't know if you knew this, but Real Madrid did not actually bring a team through the ranks as all the rest have.
Right. They just bought it.
They've gone for the shortcut, which could sound as a trick or a cheat. So Real Madrid
cheating? No.
Exactly.
Surely
so they just bought a team that was started by an ex Real Madrid executive, an exec called Ana Redondo. It was called Tacón, and it's Tacón Football Club. And so this has become sort of a source of mockery for Real Madrid because they just bought a team. They took it from they bought a team that had to climb all the way up to Primera, and then they bought it. They had no involvement whatsoever. There were two teams that were interested in the spot. They auditioned for the spot, and one got left out. I don't know if you've ever heard of another female team called Madrid CFF.
Yes.
Very funny thing. It's there's this optometrician, very famous optometrician in Madrid. I don't remember his name exactly. He started a team, and his daughter has been the goalkeeper of the team since its foundation, and she's still playing. And she's been playing professional football since she was like 15 or 14, because the purpose of that was to turn it into Real Madrid. And Real Madrid did not buy into that option. They went for the other option, the Tacón. So Madrid CFF got left out, and now they're stuck with a team that I don't know exactly what direction it's going. And Tacón turned into Real Madrid, which is a team that we all know. I was going to say love. No, of course not. Hate.
Certainly not. Not here.
We know and hate.
And that Real Madrid side finished only 8 points behind this Barcelona side.
And they were the first to come away with a win against Barcelona in a very long time. They broke a very, very long streak of victories for and it's the first time they come away with a win against Barcelona in their history.
Yeah.
And the thing that really annoys people is that media gave no attention to ladies football until Real Madrid showed up. I
remember a Marca Portada when football in another galaxy, I think, was the tagline, and it was ridiculous.
Football reaches a new dimension. And
that was
about the ladies Clásico, and it's like, Clásico? It's a 5-year-old team. Come on. What are you talking about? So it's been the talk of the town for a while. And it's very, very, very nice to see the Femenino. They play in Alcalá de Henares, the same place where you can see, I don't know if I'm sure that people that watch our podcast or listen to it are familiar with the youth league team. They play in Alcalá de Henares. Alcalá de Henares is supposed to be phased out when the area surrounding the Metropolitano is fully developed. But Atlético Madrid built a 5,000 seat venue that is very comfortable, and you've probably seen it on TV. Youth league matches or Femenino matches, kind of very boxy, on the outskirts of Alcalá de Henares. And the deal is, we build this, we use it for 20 years, and afterwards, if we decide to move out, Alcalá de Henares keeps the whole thing. So it was very convenient for Alcalá de Henares. They gave up all those plots of land, and that's where some of the youth teams play, and all of the female youth teams play, and that's part of where the club is developing its operations in Madrid for the academy.
So when the sports city is finally finished, what's the plan for Atlético Femenino and the youth teams then?
The plan is probably to phase out Majadahonda and Maneras because they're both loans. Majadahonda has been shared with a team that has been very, very close to being a segunda team. Rayo Majadahonda, the very, very competitive small club of Madrid, and they've even had to renovate the stadium due to the requirements getting promoted need. And that's where the first team trains every day. The men's team. Majadahonda is set to be phased out, but that's been the talk for decades. There was a plan to move all the operations to Alcorcón, to a huge plot of land called La Venta de la Rubia. That fell through, and now this big mega city that Atlético Madrid is planning and that is supposedly already under development should be the future of the club, and it should all be connected to the same place.
And we've talked about before how this could really have a transformative effect on Atletico as an institution.
Yes, it does, because it's tied into the Red Bull sponsorship, because it's going to have like a water park and a surfing area, and I think it's going to be very, very profitable for the club, from being able to develop its own football operations, but also being able to generate new sources of income and sources of revenue, which is what Atletico is very, very centered in doing, opening new streams of revenue. And I think that the Club World Cup is another way of tapping into new markets and creating new fan bases. We've exchanged messages about this Atletico in space, Peña, or club. I don't even know how to define that, Jeremy, so I'm going to leave that in your hands.
I can't even sign up for it because I'm already a socio. I've been a socio for the last 3 years.
Oh, so it's just
so it's one or the other.
It's one or the other. So if they have your money, they don't want new money, no? It's like,
it sounds like it, which thanks for not double dipping into my checking account, Atleti.
It's a weird thing, isn't it?
People thought on like Twitter and Reddit it was going to be like, oh, this is how they're going to announce Álex Baena's signing.
You know, I got a text from a friend. He said, English is my first language and I don't understand what this is about. It's like, I mean, English is my first language. I followed Atletico for my entire life and I don't know what this is about.
Many gifts and benefits astronomically designed for all the Atleticos, no matter where you are. The Space Supporters Club. Oh my God. But I did try to register for it and it just said error. This username has already been used. All right. So it offers you a few different things. You have a meet and greet with the players. You can take part in exclusive online events, digitally meet first team players, go to your personal area to update. Is this directly from the website?
That digital meet and greet, doesn't it sound a little bit like the Spotify rap kind of videos that you would get? Like,
worse.
Olivia Rodrigo. I'm going to get a 20-second video from Olivia Rodrigo saying, "Thank you for listening," or maybe Marcos Llorente saying, "Thank you."
I'm going to get a message from Julian Alvarez saying, "Thank you for your support."
Yes.
I mean, the personal area is like the same thing I have in my Socio portal. First time buyer discount, which I already have. You get a €20 discount on your first purchase in the online store. You're also sent a welcome pack, which is new, and they don't give any details on that. Take part in unique prize draws, like fly to Madrid, where you could win a trip to watch Atleti at our stadium, or I could just spend $1,000 and get there all the same. The digital card on your phone. This was interesting to me because last year they didn't send me my Socio card.
Well, you have it in the app.
Yeah, I have it in the app, which is good enough. But I like the physical card. I like physical media just in general.
Well, how much do you think that would cost per person?
Yeah,
€1, 100,000 cards. That's a lot of money. If they can save it, I mean, I don't know if you know what happened during the pandemic, and it's one of the shady things that Atletico does from time to time, money wise, like trying to go behind your back and take some extra money out of your pocket. They asked for support during the pandemic, saying that they were going to anticipate the fee the socio fee, and then they segregated it from the cost of the season ticket. But once the pandemic was over, they said, we're just pushing this segregated cost as a fixed cost now. So they basically just bumped everything that was in the season ticket value itself to every single season ticket holder. Before, that was a fee that was only paid by non-season ticket holders, which were the majority. But now the 70,000 that go to the stadium have to pay this extra 45 euros just because it felt like a good idea back in 2020, which is when Gilmarín and Cerezo skyrocketed on the Forbes list.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we'll have time to talk about the debt today, but we really have to get on top of that.
Next week we're going to prioritize that.
I've been doing my research on that, man. We have to talk about it.
You made it to this point in the show. Thank you so much for sticking with us. Thank you for listening to this episode of That Atleti Podcast. We really appreciate you guys. If you're watching the show on YouTube, make sure to subscribe, give a like, leave a comment. The algorithm goes crazy for that stuff. If you're listening on your preferred podcast platform, leave a rating and a review on Apple, on Spotify. In addition, we want to remind you can follow us on social media, on Instagram, That Atleti Podcast, TikTok, That Atleti Podcast, and on Twitter/X at Into the Calderón. That is the joint account for this show and for intothecalderon.com, where you can find expert opinion, analysis, and news about Atlético de Madrid in the English language. Coming up next, I will be talking to Ethan Parker, a PSG fan in Boise, Idaho. We're going to be previewing PSG and Atletico, the opening game of the Club World Cup group stage from the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California. You're not going to want to miss this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. I'm joined now by Ethan Parker. He is going to be helping me to preview Atletico's contest against PSG to open the Club World Cup. Ethan, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Probably not as good as you. I can see your T-shirt right there. You're probably doing really well these days.
Yeah. It's been a great couple of weeks. I had to get this from the club store when I was in Paris for the game. It's been pretty surreal. I feel like I'm going to wake up at some point, but no, this is reality. I can't believe it. Another thing that I can't believe is how you guys. I know this is going to maybe hit to the core, but the fact that you guys have not won a Champions League title before us, I think, is pretty remarkable, considering you guys are the only club to have played in 3 finals and lost them all. I remember watching the 2 more recent ones. Obviously, the first one you guys were in was in like the 60s or 70s, so wasn't alive for that. But the 2 recent ones, I was supporting you guys in both of those, and man, I was really disappointed for you guys. I was like, it'd be so fun if a new club won the Champions League, because having the same couple clubs win all the time is just not my thing. I'm rooting for you guys to win it someday.
Take that disappointment and multiply it by like 200, and you'll get somewhere to where I have been in recent years with those Champions League final losses. And it hurts even more given that the team across the street from us is the one winning all these Champions Leagues. That's even more difficult to bear. Yeah. You guys don't really have that same dynamic, given PSG are the major team in Paris and the major team in France. It's a very different dynamic. I know that Paris FC, though, are coming up to Ligue 1, which could be pretty interesting.
Yeah, and they're owned by Bernard Arnault, which is he's one of the richest people in the world. You were saying Atletico and Real Madrid across the street, which is accurate. And your guys' rivalry is far more intense than ours with Paris FC. We haven't played them since the late 70s. But they are literally across the street from us.
That stadium is like right next to the Parc des Princes, isn't it?
The PSG's clubs, so they have at least 2 club stores in Paris. One on the Champs-Élysées, where all the tourists are and they're going shopping by the designer stores. But then the one across from the Parc des Princes, that is literally inside the Stade Jean-Bouin, which is their new stadium. So it's kind of weird where our club store is now. It's on the southeast corner, I believe, of a club that is, technically our rival. So it's kind of bizarre.
So talk to me about how you became a PSG fan. How did this journey begin for you?
Yeah. So when I was a kid, I've always been really into geography and anthropology, study of human history and culture and how that relates. So I've naturally been a guy where I'm thinking, oh, I want to know where my ancestors come from. I want to know where my family way back in the day comes from. And at first I found that, okay, there's a good amount that was there was English from the Mayflower, like a lot of white Americans in the U.S. But I mostly found that pretty much all my mom's side and a lot of my dad's side was from France, and especially central France, and a bunch of it in Paris. Probably well, not the majority, but the largest portion of it was from Paris. So I went, you know what? What's the team there? I'm just going to start supporting them, and no matter whether they're good or not, I'm just going to support them. So they were in the Europa League at the time, and that was kind of a rough time in our club's history. I unfortunately was a little kid in the United States that didn't grow up particularly wealthy, so I really had no way to watch the games. And so it was hard for me to become a hardcore fan. That really only happened when I probably became an adult, because now I could, I had the capacity to buy whatever TV channel, package I wanted, and actually watch my club for once. But I was a fairly casual fan for, a lot of my childhood. And that was about I think it was right after Ronaldinho left, essentially. So 2004-ish, well, 14, 15 is when I actually was able to watch the games a lot. My college roommate happened to be from Paris, and he was a lifelong PSG fan. So I'm like, oh, sweet. We figured out a way. We're going to watch games now, because, he'd been watching on Canal Plus like his whole life, the French team. And so we were like, all right, let's figure out a way to watch this together. And really, I had someone to actually talk to about Paris Saint-Germain for once. And so that, coupled with me actually having the personal finances to buy TV packages and watch PSG, really kicked off.
But I love hearing these stories, because my journey to supporting Atletico was kind of similar. The first couple of years, I was more of a casual fan. Like, okay, they beat Real Madrid to win the Copa del Rey, which was an amazing moment at Real Madrid Stadium. And then they win La Liga the next year in the era of peak Messi and peak Cristiano Ronaldo. And that's really when it kicked off for me. And like you said, it's hard to watch that stuff overseas. It's hard to watch it in the US, especially until ESPN got the rights for La Liga a few years ago. I had to purchase any number of packages, you just rotate them every few months to watch Atletico play on beIN Sports, because they have the rights here. And I think beIN still has the rights to Ligue 1 in the US. I think that's true. They
do, and they're not my favorite channel on the planet, but at least I have a way to watch them now, opposed to when I was a kid. Yeah.
So PSG, man, Champions League winners after so many years and a lot of spending, let's be real. But after all the years of near misses, Kylian Mbappe leaves for Real Madrid. How does it feel?
Yeah, I gotta say, I mean, it would have been amazing had we won it any time from, if we'd won it last season through, the COVID years, 2020 through last year. It would have still been amazing had we won it, but it just doesn't quite hit the same, given that in those seasons we had the largest wage bill of any club in world football, and we definitely weren't profitable. Part of that was due to COVID, but part of it was also due to, in my opinion, our president Nasser. Instead of toning back the spending like most clubs did, like all the smart clubs did, we were thinking, oh well, there's no financial fair play right now, so let's go ham and get Messi when we really don't need him. And he obviously wasn't a very good fit for the club. I feel like a lot of other fans of other clubs would have put an asterisk on it. Like, well, yeah, I mean, your guys' wage bill was like $390 million. Of course you won the Champions League. But the fact that it was that high, so much higher than everyone else's, and we still were epic failures, I think now looking back, I'm really glad it happened, because this year, I mean, yeah, we've spent a lot to get the guys that we currently have, but we're probably going to make 100 million of sales this summer, and we really only need to sign one player, like a right-footed center back, essentially. maybe a backup right back for Hakimi. But we've set ourselves up to where the spending does not need to be high at all for the next years. Our player wage bill this last season was 7th in Europe, and then Mbappe leaves. That clears off 72 million in salaries, which is insane that we paid
72 million.
Oh
wow.
my gosh, it's ridiculous. And that, and selling a couple other guys. And the dudes we replaced them with, I mean, Desiree Doué and João Neves, both of those guys are on, 5 million a year. That's not a lot of money. And of course, the fact that I'm not really vindictive, or I'm not really upset that Mbappe left. At the time, I was like, come on, man, get us a transfer fee if you actually love the club. But now I'm so happy that everything worked out exactly the way it did. This new era, and especially really starting this year, now that we've got Mbappe off the books, it was just, oh man, it was picture perfect. I was dreaming in the weeks leading up to the final. I don't want there to be no doubt. I don't want fans of other clubs like Arsenal or Barcelona. I don't need their fans saying, well, maybe if we had done this one thing differently, we could have played you guys and beat you. No, I mean, if you win a Champions League final 5-0, I think you deserved it. So, I'm still in dreamland.
Watching PSG kind of rebuild in this way has been fascinating to me. Obviously, there's a lot of money at stake, but I mean, you guys have had the capacity to go sign Kvaratskhelia in January, which not every club can do, but it was a brilliant signing. He helped make that system work, and his signing helped transform that team, which already had a great coach in Luis Enrique, has long been one of my favorite coaches. So many different players who can carry the ball and just outrageous technical ability. Doué and Ousmane Dembélé emerged over the second half of the season to, I don't know, man, they just destroyed teams. They just laid these teams to waste. And I watched Dembélé at Barca for years, and he could just never stay fit. But now he's found something at PSG. He's the leader of this group of young French players, and relative bargain buys in the market. They've all bought into what Lucho is selling.
I look back and I feel like I'm not very good at, talking tactics or scouting players, but when I'm talking new signings and when we're talking all right, because I don't watch a bunch of football outside of Paris Saint-Germain, but I was pretty critical of signing Dembele, and I was pretty critical of us hiring Lucho back in the day. And I honestly was not so sold on the Kvaratskhelia deal in January. And those are all three signings, arrivals that have blown up in my face. It just shows that our sporting director, Luis Campos, is just, I mean, I've always been a huge supporter of him, but every time I doubted him in the slightest, he's always proven me wrong. And Nasser, as much of as problematic as he's been in the past, if we're being real, because I'm not one to shy away or pretend that my club is absolutely perfect and scot-free. But Nasser has moved from being a president who wants to make football decisions to a guy that realizes, I never played pro football. I'm a former semi-pro tennis player. Let me just do the business side and let a genius coach and a genius sporting director make all the football decisions. And it's obviously paid off. And I'm upset that it took him this long to figure it out, because I've been asking for this basically since La Remontada. But, we finally got there. Everything happened as it should have.
Do you have a favorite player on this PSG side right now?
Oh, gosh. Honestly, not really. I've tried to think of, oh man. I don't have one favorite. I will say, I mean, I've been a supporter of Vitinha since the moment we signed him, and a lot of people, a lot of our supporters gave up on him after that first season. And I was kind of not down on him. I just was kind of indifferent, waiting to see how he turned out early on. But Desiree Doué, love him now. And then Gonzalo Ramos are the only true striker we have in the team. PSG doesn't really play to his strengths, but he's been maybe the best super sub in Europe. And as far as when you need to put a true 9 on the pitch, and I've always been saying that, 85th minute, you're down a goal. At a certain point, maybe you throw tactics out the window and just start lumping balls into the box. He's the kind of guy that can score you goals from those areas. He did something real similar in our December round of 64 match in the Coupe de France against Lens, I believe. It wasn't a header, I don't think, but he scored a fairly late goal and saved us, sent it to penalties. Without him, we don't win the treble this year. We would have still won Liga and the Champions League, but would have been, amazing season, but we're not treble winners without him. And he's the guy that I think that, maybe PSG is not the best club for him given our play style, but if he went somewhere that really suited him, I think he could be a really, really good striker. So those would probably be the three for me.
Atletico have kind of a similar dynamic, which is funny, with Alexander Sørloth, who set a new record in La Liga for goals scored off the bench this season with a dozen. And he's a guy who, mostly we would start Antoine Griezmann and Julian Alvarez this season, but Sørloth would come on around the hour, and Atletico's play style would instantly change. You'd hoof balls forward. This is a big 6'5" Norwegian hanging out in the penalty area, and he just brings balls down and heads them in or strikes it with his left foot. That's how he gets to 20 goals in the league without being a regular starter. So it's really interesting that you mentioned that about Ramos. Speaking of Atletico and PSG, we've already met once this season, man. Back in November at the Parc des Princes, in a very different time for both of our clubs. Atletico were hanging on for dear life in the Champions League, and we rocked up to the Parc des Princes and somehow won 2-1 with a Nahuel Molina goal out of nowhere, and then Angel Correa scores very late on. I remember Luis Enrique was very upset after full time, and you know what? I didn't really blame him, because he had 70% of the ball and 20-something shots, and he scored one goal.
Yeah, that was kind of our issue back then, is that we could create a lot of good chances but couldn't quite finish. I think after that game is when a lot of PSG fans were – some of them started asking for Lucho's head. They wanted him out. I said, no, I think the stats would show that we're doing everything we need to do except finish well. So let's at least hang with him for the rest of the season. But that was actually, I've watched I've never done this before, and I'm going to pull it off this year finally. I've never watched every single Paris Saint-Germain match in a season live as it happened. I'm always usually missing like 2 or 3 Liga games. This year I've watched every one. That was the game that I was able to watch the least amount, though, because of work. I was right in my busy season. So I only caught about 65 minutes total of the match, but I did get most of the second half. I did miss our goal, though, our first goal. I think I saw both of your guys'. I definitely saw the second one, but I think I saw your first one, too. But yeah, I was thinking that was the one weakness that you guys showed on that one attack that Correa scored at the end. That one counterattacking move, just flying down the field, and you get basically one on two, a center back and a goalkeeper against Correa, essentially, if I'm remembering right. And we would allow a lot of big chances from teams like that. And it's why even going into the knockout rounds, even when we were playing, especially Arsenal and then entering the final, I'm just waiting for one of these counterattack goals to get us at our weakest point, just like how you guys did there. I'm just waiting for it the whole knockout rounds, and it never came, which was incredible. Our defensive stability just got a lot better somehow. Like I said, I'm not a tactics guy, so I couldn't explain why, but it just did. But that one goal I was thinking about for a long time, because I didn't think we were going to win the Champions League. I was telling people in August, hey, let's get to the quarterfinals, and then after that, who knows what draw you're going to get, and we'll go from there. Quarterfinals would be a successful season with this young team, average age of 23 and a half years. And I'm just thinking the whole time, when we get eliminated, it's going to be because of goals like that. It's just a game like that, or games like the one we lost against Liverpool in the round of 16. That tells you that, XG is obviously important. You want to create a lot of chances and high quality chances, but really the X factor has always been in this sport. Finishing, how well you can finish when you have the opportunity to score, and you guys were excellent at it that night, and we were terrible. And so you guys, in a way, did deserve to win, despite us having the vast majority of possession and we had the higher expected goals. But really, what it matters is whether you can put the ball in the back of the net. But yeah, this is gonna be a fun matchup that we got here on Sunday, because it'll be. because I wonder how it's going to go, because a lot of Arsenal supporters thought that our semifinal matchup would go the way it went when we played them in October 1st. They beat us 2-0. We basically didn't create anything. Dembele didn't play, and Kvaratskhelia obviously wasn't in the squad yet. And obviously, the semifinal tie went nothing like that October 1 game. So I wonder, and again, it's different because it's just one match in a group stage of a tournament that was essentially just created last year. But yeah, I wonder how this game is going to go. It could go in a variety of ways. It could be real similar to the last one, where we've got all the possession, as Lucho Ball typically does, and we've got the ball in the attacking third. And if you guys hit us on the counter well, it could be just like in November. So yeah, it'll be an interesting one.
I think that's the game that Diego Simeone is going to plan for. I wouldn't be surprised at all if that's how it unfolded. It worked well the first time. Atletico are coming off a scenario where we've had 3 weeks of rest since the last league game. This is the last chance Atletico have to win a trophy this season. It's our first time in this newly formatted Club World Cup, and who knows when we'll get back here. We're here instead of Barcelona, which is very unusual. I wonder what the PSG mentality is going to be. Obviously, PSG want to win as well. You want to be European and world champions, but y'all have had a little less rest, maybe a few hungover players after winning the Champions League. I'm not saying Atletico will be more motivated or PSG will be less motivated, but psychologically, it'll be just as fascinating to me tactically. And it could reveal a lot about how seriously teams are taking this tournament in Europe.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, because I mean, I won't be at the Atleti game, but I'll be at match day 2, also in the Rose Bowl against Botafogo. And I will be at match day 3 in Seattle against the Sounders. And even though I'm going to 2 matches, because I make sure I go to a PSG game every single year at least. So it was nice that I didn't have to travel to France to this one, but then, I ended up doing it anyway because we made the final. But even though I'm going to 2 of these games, I'm not taking it too seriously. I kind of think it's just a cash grab expansion of the FIFA Intercontinental Cup, which has been the real Club World Cup. I mean, it's literally had the name the Club World Cup for the last 20 years. And so really my thing is, let's get out of the group. Let's not get eliminated by a non-European team. And then most of all, I just don't want anyone to get hurt, because if we go to the final, or I don't even know if there's a third place game, but if we go and we're playing in that final match, basically, right at the end, I think it ends July 15th, then we've got the UEFA Super Cup, a trophy we have never won, because I just want us to win it once. I think it's a trophy that it's important. It's only important really if the Champions League winner loses. So let's not, make it important for Tottenham kind of a thing. Let's win what we probably should be winning. That's on August 13th. That's a month later. And so these dudes might get 2 weeks of rest. And I just think this next season will be a tiny bit shorter probably than this one. But still, having a 60-game club season potentially, probably like 55 for us, plus international matches, and then they have the World Cup at this time in the year. I mean, 2 weeks rest to prepare for all that is just not good for health. I think one of these years we're going to see so many big names in football go down with bad injuries, and UEFA and FIFA aren't going to do anything about it until we have one of those awful years. So I just am hoping, I don't want anyone to get hurt, because if I'm going to beat a club in a competition, I want them to be at full strength, and I want my club to be at full strength. I want to have earned it. This fixture congestion, I feel like someday it's going to bite back, and it's going to get a lot of good players. And I think it's on just overall kind of diminishing the quality of the game a bit. So that's the tough thing with the Club World Cup. I wish it didn't exist. I wish all of our players could go on vacation for a good 2 months and then come back really rested in August. But, we have this tournament, and some teams are going to take it really seriously. Most of them are. Some of them aren't. It's a very weird dynamic. I feel like since I've followed football, I don't think we've had a scenario quite like this.
There's a lot of money at stake here. I think Atletico could pocket 130 million euros or so, give or take, if they win the tournament. So from a financial point of view, yeah, the club is very invested in Atletico doing well here. And the players are as well. I think to your point about the fixture congestion, this will not end until there is either a plague of injuries to big name players or just a work stoppage. The players are going to have to refuse to play, which that's the nuclear scenario. Nobody wants that. And FIFA kind of hedging its bet saying, well, yes, this is going to be a long season, but it's only once every 4 years. That's going to placate a lot of clubs and players for a while, but not forever. I mean, the players are not robots. The players are not machines. The players are not money-making vessels. They are human beings. They are athletes, and they're human beings at the end of the day. We have to take care of them. These players need rest. Yeah. So it's going to be very interesting to see the knock-on effects of this tournament. I really hope none of our major players get injured, because that will be a very bitter pill to swallow. That will be very tough to take. It's a tournament that you're dangling this pot of gold over several of these teams, and that is at club level, that is the motivating factor. Yeah. But there is a human aspect to this that I don't think more people are acknowledging it now, which is good, but not enough of the right people are acknowledging it.
Have you heard the numbers about Inter Miami's first game where they've only sold 20,000 seats, something like that? I think they're playing,
like 25,000.
I think they're playing it in the Dolphin Stadium too, so that can seat 55 probably or something like that. I think that PSG Atleti will be one of the more attended. I'm going to guess like 60, but between two of the biggest clubs in the world, I mean, the Rose Bowl is massive, but it's not going to sell out the Rose Bowl the way that like a Champions League quarterfinal tie would be, or even a Champions League group stage game would be. But yeah, a lot of these games, I mean, there's some of these games between an Egyptian club and a South African club, or clubs that, I mean, they're very big clubs, especially in their own continent. But as far as having the fans in the United States, it's not nearly as much as you're going to see the top 8 or so European clubs that are in the competition. Yeah, we're probably going to see some games that are really poorly attended. So, and especially they've kind of gone out of their way to put them in mostly large stadiums, NFL stadiums. And part of me, I'm excited to go to the games, of course. I hope we win, but more importantly, no one gets injured. Just get out of the group, basically, to get a decent amount of prize money. But I'm kind of hoping that no one else wants to go to games, so that they just don't even hold this tournament in 4 years, if I'm being honest. Because you did say that UEFA and FIFA are saying, well, it's only once every 4 years. Yeah, but in 2 of the other 3 years, you have the Euros or Copa America, or for African players, AFCON in December, January. And AFCON's not even every 4, it's and the Copa America as well, I think, is basically every 3 or every 2.
Yeah, give or take, yeah.
And then they change it. And then the World Cup every 4 years. So you're going to be looking at a full summer of rest for these players once every 4 years, basically. And other than that, they'll get maybe 3 weeks. That's just a disaster waiting to happen.
You're meeting the bare minimum that the players' union requires. That's not enough at all. Either way, it's going to be a fascinating tournament, and I'm excited to kick it off against PSG.
That's really the first big match of the tournament. So all eyes are going to be, especially anyone who wants to see, is the Club World Cup worth watching? The first game that people are going to have their eyes on, I believe, is going to be the first one with 2 European clubs, which will be us. So, yeah, it'll be cool.
It's going to be a blockbuster. Can't wait. Ethan Parker, thank you so much for hopping on the show today. Where can our viewers and listeners find you and your work?
Yeah, so on Twitter/X, I'm at PSG_Boise.
Good luck on Sunday. You're going to need it.
Thank you.
I was on the Uriah show, and now that the Club World Cup is inching closer and closer, I'm starting to get these goosebumps of competing and the adrenaline of and the excitement of seeing Atletico play, which would happen regardless of the competition, even if it was a friendly match.
Yeah.
But I think that now that they're in this mode, don't you think that this is going to work a little bit like a World Cup, where the most important game is probably what Atletico does against PSG, and then just replicate whatever happens in the other match? Luis Enrique really dislikes Atlético Madrid. I mean, from when he's competing, he hates to play against Atlético Madrid. He doesn't like the style. It doesn't favor competing against his teams because his teams look less flashy when they play against Atlético Madrid. I remember that there was this press conference I was sitting in the Calderón. He was complaining about the turf. It was very much in the period where Xavi was talking about the length of the grass and all that.
Oh, yeah.
And he was saying, it's impossible to play in the stadium. The ball just bounces around like a rabbit. I'm sick of playing in Vicente Calderón. I can't wait to play somewhere else. So he was like, yeah, it felt a little bit like a crybaby kind of situation. Like, yeah, he just can't tolerate that Atlético Madrid is competitive against Luis Enrique's sides, and he really did not like to play against Atlético Madrid. And that was a period where there were rumors of replacing Simeone for Luis Enrique, and I thought that was a terrible idea because of all that Simeone is willing to endure just to make things work for Atlético Madrid that I don't think any other coach would do. No matter how good I think Luis Enrique is as a coach, I just think that Atletico needs a special fit at the coaching position because of all of the stuff that we have to talk about every summer. Like we're talking about Baena, Cuti, Romero, and Hincapié, and nobody's come here. We have Lenglet and Musso to show for a signing. So yeah.
And Simeone will swallow that. Not a lot of other top coaches would.
And he'll keep the team competitive and hungry in this competition. And I think that this kind of situation where Atletico is going to majorly ride the underdog role is the perfect. It's a perfect environment, perfect storm for Atlético Madrid to go deep into the competition. So as the competition has come closer, and you know that I was very, very reluctant to show any kind of excitement for the competition a couple of weeks ago, I'm starting to get interested because of that twinkle I see in Simeone's eyes of wanting to be competitive against the rest of the world and put Atleti on the global stage of being one of the hardest sides to defeat.
I think one thing that we know for sure is that Atleti are going to be prepared. Atletico are going to take this seriously. I think they're going to play hard, and I think they're going to play well.
Save the day against PSG. Bet all your cards on beating Seattle Sounders and just seeing where the chips may fall against Botafogo. Whatever Botafogo does against Seattle Sounders, for Atletico to do the same or better, and hope that PSG can best Botafogo. And just play your cards of, if you can, you're in second position. I think it's going to be very tactical, very like when you're in a World Cup stage to play out your cards. First match is important, but it's not decisive. It gets decisive in match day 2, and especially in match day 3, and always understanding what's going on in the rest of the group.
Yeah, when you have a clearer picture and a better understanding of what mathematically and tactically you have to do. Could that perhaps be a reason why Atletico did not rush to make any signings for this Club World Cup, Ricky?
I think they didn't make any significant signings because they don't have the money to compete.
Well, that too.
Yeah, that's.
But all these new sponsorships, how do they not have the money?
I mean, because it all goes to the same pockets, man. It's not for spending purposes per se. Haven't you read Marca and Piku?
I did read Piku Diaz. I've been reading that same article for years now.
You have to sell before you buy. My feeling is that the Baena deal is closed, and they're just waiting for the correct moment from the fiscal point of view for both teams to announce it. So it makes more sense in their books, probably with a new financial season kicking off at the end of June.
That's literally what I said earlier this week on Twitter. That's what they're waiting for.
It needs to move to July, and it would be open for the second mini transfer window once the league stage has passed and we're in the knockout stage. I would hope that 3 signings. I would hope that one or two were defenses. Cuti, Romero, or Hincapié. I don't know which ones you would favor. Which one do you would favor over the other?
Both. We need both.
Yes.
But I don't think there's money for both.
Needs two, they get one.
If they're going to pick one, it's going to be Romero. Because that's the one that Simeone wants. He has the better resume. I think at this point in their career, he's the more experienced player, and he has a lot of Argentina teammates in that dressing room already. It's going to be Romero if they had to pick one.
All of the signings have been like very, very low cost. The PSG hasn't signed anybody. Seattle Sounders hasn't signed anybody. Botafogo has signed a couple of players, like one from Benfica and Tucu Correa.
Cabral, they paid like $15 million for him too.
Yeah, but Tucu Correa is kind of washed up, isn't he?
Inter let him go on free.
He's in the last leg of his career, I think. He was a Sevilla player like 7 years ago, or
I liked him at Sevilla. That was a long time ago now, though.
A very long time ago, I'd say.
Yeah,
he's past his prime. He's like 31 or 32, I guess. At this point.
That was a long time ago.
That's another question. What's going to happen with the expiring contract players? Are they going to get playing time? Would you risk an injury when your contract?
That's a good question. Like, how does this affect Reinildo, Witsel, Azpilicueta, those guys who are all probably leaving the club? Of those three, Reinildo has the best chance to stay.
What do you do?
It's very tricky to navigate that.
I can imagine that they'll probably have some secret extension, like signed with the players, and we won't find out until they're already playing that deal out. We saw that happen with Thiago back in the day. I don't know why Atletico would do that, but it feels like in this case where they're not being transparent at all with what's going to happen with those players, and they're playing out their final weeks with their Atleti contracts. I'm not very sure if they're going to be in the mental position to play super competitive football. And risk
if they're not, they won't play
for a year.
Yeah,
if they suffer an injury.
I mean, Axel Witsel has already suffered a serious Achilles injury in his career. I don't think he wants to repeat that.
Some of them are facing the possibility of signing their last big contract. I mean, Witsel can probably look for something in the MLS or in the Saudi league or some of these secondary football markets. Azpilicueta can just, I don't know, ride into the sunset or decide that he's going to try United States or some other not so competitive league. There are many possibilities. Go back to Osasuna, but an injury would just frustrate that operation, and unless he signs that deal beforehand and has it secured. A little bit like what that operation that Correa was trying to pull off at the end of the season that Atletico was not willing to let go. And that was the last time that the press office for Atlético Madrid called all of the reporters and all the pundits and all the beat reporters.
Before tonight.
That was a penultimate time. The last time was tonight when they called around and said, no, we're not interested in Theo, never been, don't know who the guy is. Who did he play for? Hernandez is it? Never heard of him.
But the point about these out of contract players, it just puts this tournament in a weird light. It casts a weird pall over it.
There's so many things. The moment of the season when this tournament takes place, the format, which is new, the problem of celebrating a football tournament in the United States right now due to the political turmoil that's going on, and so that uncertainty, along with the novelty of the competition, which has completely frozen any expectation from the fan bases of traveling with the team. The format of the competition, which goes from playing in Pasadena to playing in Seattle to where's the Botafogo match?
They're playing Botafogo at the Rose Bowl, actually.
European fan bases are not used to going on those super long trips across several states. The situation is not very favorable for just hiring a charter flight and moving over for a game and then moving out. It feels like very, very, the timing feels terrible for the competition. I think it's going to kill the vibe of all of the initial league phase. Once we go through that first stage, in the knockout stage where the real value of the tournament is going to kick in, when we see who gets knocked out, when Atlético Madrid has to probably face the teams in Group A, which seem to be one of the weaker groups of the tournament. Once you get back past that last 16 stage to the last 8, that's going to feel very much like Champions League quarterfinals.
Well, I'm predicting a quarterfinal appearance or better.
Quarterfinal appearance. I mean, anything that goes deeper than quarterfinals is going to be a huge success. I don't know if Atletico is prepared to win this competition. Trying to be among the last 4 is going to derail the next season's preparation, but it's going to be seen as a huge success for Atlético Madrid. Because once the money starts kicking in, all those price money hurdles that you have to overcome in this competition, it's going to become very, very profitable for the team.
And yeah, I think the club would look pretty favorably on getting to the last 8 or even the last 4. Not with the current squad makeup and given the strength of the other. I mean, Manchester City made 4 signings just for this tournament. Like,
exactly. Yeah,
ridiculous.
They turn on the oil money and
yeah, they turned on the faucet, all right.
Yeah, they pumped out some money and they made big signings. And we know that Real Madrid, the other super billionaire club, just spent 60 million euros as if it were nothing, just pocket change.
But remember, they pay their players in glory.
Competing against that is already a huge win. To be able to feel competitive against those sides, and one of these short tournaments, I don't know. I think Atlético Madrid can be a kind of a surprise for the rivals.
Last thing before we sign off today, how do you feel about the new home shirt?
I love it. I think it's 2010 vibes. Is it 2010? 2010, 2011?
Yeah.
It feels very. That would be the Kun Agüero Forlán thing. Yes, feels very, very much like those glory days with Quique Sánchez Flores, and very, very nice jersey. Looks very nice on the players. They flooded the internet with pictures and mock-ups, and the Fernando Torres picture is fire. I don't know if you've seen him.
Yeah, I saw that
in the Atlético jersey. That's probably my favorite picture. The one with Julián Álvarez is also great. The Sorloth posing inside the Metropolitano with the other models, also awesome. I would say the only thing I don't like is the color of the socks. I don't like I don't like to dress them. I don't like them to be blue. I prefer the red.
Yeah, that's new. When was the last time we wore blue socks with a home?
It happens once in a while. It's like my phobia for the red shorts. When they wear the red shorts,
yeah,
too much.
That's a jinx.
Yeah, I don't like it at all. And I know it's players love it and coaches love it because it's a way of not making mistakes when you're passing the ball, because they don't look up to the shirt. They normally keep their eyes focused on the feet of the rest of the. So it makes a lot of sense for the two kits to be very different. But if it works out in other sports, I mean, I don't like changing the basic colors of the uniform too much, switching it around too much. So blue socks, acceptable, not my favorite. I can live with it anyway.
You can live with it. Yeah. I think it's a solid 9 out of 10. I love this shirt.
It's very nice. It's very nice. I hope they kill it in sales, because that would be a good sign for Nike to continue being respectful with the design of the first jersey and making nice jerseys as the home jersey and stop all that design mayhem that we've been going through in the last seasons.
Well, the next time we talk to y'all, we'll have, I think, 2 games to talk about, the PSG game and the Seattle Sounders game, the first 2 matchups of the Club World Cup group stage. But until then, thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all for subscribing, rating, reviewing, leaving comments. We really appreciate it. We want to keep the discussion going. So for Ricky Menéndez, I'm Jeremy Beren. We'll talk to you all again next week. Adios.